Right. All right. So we're gonna go over Cornelius. Was he an Israelite or a Gentile? Okay. So read verse Acts 10 verse 1. Acts 10 verse 1. Let's start here.
Acts 10 verse 1.
Read.
There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
The Italian band. So where the confusion came in, as we said earlier, is because he was in the Italian army. You understand? But our people don't understand, like, because our people were living in Italy. Okay, so let's get that right quick. Encyclopedia Judaica. Okay, let's see. Look up the Jews in Italy. Read.
Jews have lived in Italy without interruptions from the days of the Maccabees until the present. Through a period of more than 21st centuries, although a general expulsion was never issued.
So read that again. Read the first sentence.
It says, although a general expulsion.
No, first sentence.
The first sentence. Jews have lived in Italy without interruptions from the days of the Maccabees.
From the days of the Maccabees, read.
Until the present.
Until present. We still got our people in Italy. But Jews have been living since the time of Maccabees. But again, Christians don't understand. They don't even know what is the time of Maccabees. They don't read the Apocrypha. In the time of the Maccabees had a pact. The Israelites had a pact with the Romans for protection against the Greeks. So a lot of Hebrews, Israelites start migrating to Italy. Okay, read on.
Through a period of more than 21 centuries, although a general expulsion was never issued for the Jews of Italy.
Read.
There were frequently partial ones.
There were partial expulsion, which they sent, part of our people back home. But there were never a general expulsion. So much of our people stayed in Italy. Read.
The Jewish community often enjoyed good relationship with the rulers and general populations. And at times in history were even granted special privileges.
Special what?
Privileges.
Special privileges. And Cornelius was one of these brothers. He had special privileges. He was one of those generals in the army, Italian army. He had his own soldiers, okay, that was under him. So our people were always among the Italians, among the Romans, being part of the armies, just like today. Our people is part of the army. We colonels. Read that again. Where it says special privileges.
And at times in history were even granted special privileges.
You see that? Our people were granted special privileges in the Italian army. But again, a Christian or someone who has no understanding, they'd quickly say, you see, he must have been a white man, saved by grace. No, the Bible is not trying to tell you that. Let's go back to the book of Acts. All right, let's see. We're going to further prove this. All right, read.
The book of Acts, chapter 10, verse 2. A devout man and one that feared the Most High with all his house, which gave much alms to the people.
So they call him a devout man. What is a devout man in the Bible? What is he talking about? Would the Bible call someone who worships Zeus devout?
No.
How do the Bible, what about fear the Most High? Do the Most High call someone who worship Apollos or all these Greek gods? You fear the Most High God? What kind of God is he talking about?
Someone who respects the Most High.
Okay, so let's get that. Get me Acts. Acts 22 verse 12. Let's see another example of a man that was devout. Let's see what does that mean to be devout in the Bible. Because a lot of Christians, when they hear he was devout, remember the Romans and the Greeks, they worship Zeus and other gods.
Right.
So if Cornelius was a devout man in fear of the Most High, that should tell you right quick something here. Let's find out. What's that telling us? Acts 22 and 12.
Acts 22 verse 12.
Read.
And one, Ananias, A devout man
what?
A devout man according to the law.
According to what?
To the law.
According to the law. Ananias was one of the men that was devout. According to the law. You're not just called devout in the Bible if you don't keep the commandments. Okay? You like Christian think. Okay? That's not it. Read. We're in Acts 22 and 12. Read.
A devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there.
He had a good report of all the Jews that dwelt there. So let's see what does it mean to fear the Most High. Because when you see fear the Most High, you know, like Christians don't even understand what does that mean. When they fear the Most High, they don't know. They just say fear the Most High. Get me Deuteronomy 17 verse 19. What does that mean to fear the Most High?
It says, and it shall be with him, and he shall read there in all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Most High, his power, to keep all the
to do what?
To keep all the words of this law and these statutes to them, to do them.
You understand? That's how you fear the Most High. To fear the Most High, to keep all his word of this law and these statutes. You got to understand, this brother already feared the Most High. That means he was keeping the law. He had his fringes on. Cornelius had his fringes on. He knew the law of Moses. Okay? Who was the law given to? To Israel. We're going to get further in that later on. All right, let's go back to the book of Acts. So, devout means you actually devout to the law. And fearing the Most High mean what? You keep his commandment. So, we don't have to guess about Cornelius, what he was doing before he met Peter. He was already keeping the law. Okay? Let's go back to Acts 10. And also he says, verse 2, which he gave much alms to the people. To what people he gave much alms to? To the Jews that were living in Italy. Okay? He gave much alms. And we're gonna find out. You're gonna find out later. And he said he prayed to the Most High always. To who? Whose God was he praying? Y'all make it seem like he was some kind of Gentiles that was living worshiping Zeus. That's what people make it sound like. This brother wasn't worshiping Zeus. He was worshiping the God of Abraham, of his forefathers, of Isaac and Jacob. And he was giving alms to the people of Israel. He feared the Most High God of Abraham. Okay, he wasn't no random Gentiles. Like people make it seem like. He wasn't like regular Gentiles, which we teach them the law. He already knew the law. All right, let's read on. Verse 3.
Verse 3. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of the Most High coming in to him, and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before the Most High.
So, you think the Most High would send an angel to someone who worships Zeus? And says your prayers have been answered when you are praying to Zeus? No, man. You must be out of your mind to even think about that. Okay? Whom the nations or among the nations the Most High have talked to or sent his angels to? Have you ever seen that? Show me an example that the Most High sent his angel to talk to any of the other nations. To any heathen. To the Chinese, to the white men. Have you ever seen that? If they tell you they did that, they're lying, man. They're lying. Like the guy that founded the Mormon church. He didn't see no angel. He lied. Read.
And now send men to Joseph, to Joppa, and call for one Simon, whom surname is Peter.
Read.
He lodged with one Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thou oughtest. Is that oughtest
to do.
Oughtest to do.
Okay, so he says, go to Simon Peter, and when you get there, you're gonna find Peter. Okay, and he's gonna tell you exactly what you need to do. All right, verse 7.
7. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually.
Okay, so he had another devout soldier. Read.
And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. On the morrow was they went on their journey, and drew nigh unto the city. Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour.
Okay, about the 6th hour, what time was it?
9 o'clock.
9?
Was it 12?
12.
12.
It was 12. Because in the
Ninth
Hebrew
hour.
time,
12.
the hours start as soon as daybreak. So it count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was 12. It was noon, hot, the hot sun.
And he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance.
Read.
And saw heaven open and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners and let down to the earth. Wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat.
Read.
But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
You see, Peter is the so-called first. That's what the Catholic call him, the first pope. Peter is the first pope. Never eat anything unclean. He never eat pork, swine. You know, the Most High, in the dream, that was a dream the Most High gave him that had a meaning. But Christian would quickly use that verse to see. You see, eat. You can eat anything. But they're not going to read this verse where Peter said, I never eat any unclean things. So meaning what? The first Christians never eat any unclean things. That shows you Christianity today is of the devil, not of the Most High. All right, read. Verse 15.
Verse 15.
Uh-huh.
And the voice spake unto him again the 2nd time.
Read.
What the Most High had cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done twice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven.
Okay, so he says, what the Most High call clean, do not call common. That don't mean he clean the pork. That's not what he's talking about. It's a dream that had meaning. Get me Ecclesiasticus 15 verse 20 in the Apocrypha. Right? Ecclesiasticus 15 and 20.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 15 verse 20.
Read.
He hath commanded no man to do wickedly.
The Most High don't give no man commandments to do wickedly. Read.
Neither hath he given any man license to sin.
The Most High has not given any man license to sin. Neither he command no man to do wickedness. That was a dream, and the dream had a meaning. The Most High is not commanding Peter to eat swine's flesh, which is against his own commandments. The Most High is not the author of confusion. Acts 10 verse 17.
In Christianity, all lives matter.
All lives matter, yeah. What about the nations? Can everybody save? Yeah. What about the Jews? Do they exist? It don't matter today. Nothing matters to a Christian. Nothing. It's the don't matter religion. Okay? You can come in and do whatever you want to do. It don't matter.
He hate the sin, love the sinner.
It don't matter. All right? Verse 17. Acts 10, 17.
Verse 17.
Uh-huh.
Now while Peter doubted in himself that what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate.
Read.
And called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there.
Read.
While Peter thought on the visions, the Spirit said unto him, Behold, 3 men seek thee.
Okay.
20. Arise therefore and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them.
He said, do not doubt anything, because I have sent them. Read.
Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am here whom he seek.
Read.
What is the cause wherefore he are come?
Read.
And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man.
A what?
A just man.
A just man. What make you just? The law and the commandments. You don't just become just because you said so. Because you like a Christian, I go to church, then I'm just. Okay? A just man is one that keeps God's commandments. Read.
And one that feareth the Most High.
One that what?
one that feareth the Most
We
High.
already read that in Deuteronomy 4. Okay? In Deuteronomy 17 and 19. That's how you fear the Most High. Okay, by keeping his laws. Read.
And of good report among all the nations of the Jews.
Okay, so now let's go back in Acts. Acts 22 and 12. Acts 22 and 12. He had very good reports among the Jews. Why would he even have good reports among the Jews? Acts 22 and 12.
Acts 22 verse 12.
Read.
And one Ananias, a devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there.
You see that? He had a good report of the Jews because he himself was a Jew. Ananias was the same thing. He had a good report, just like Cornelius.
Acts 22, 12?
Yes, that was Acts 22 and 12. Get me Acts 10 verse 2 again. How does describe Cornelius? Acts 10 verse 2.
Acts
10 verse 2.
Acts chapter 10 verse 2.
Read. That's talking about Cornelius.
A devout man, and one that feared the Most High with all his house,
All his family was in order. Read.
which gave up much alms to the people.
That's how he come to be well reported among the Jews, because he would be giving the Jews a lot of stuff. He would give a lot of alms to the people, to the Jews. So let's go back down. Let's go back down.
What you want me to go right down for?
Where we were at.
Oh.
Verse 22.
Verse 22. And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth the Most High, and of good report among all the nations of the Jews, was warned from the Most High by an holy angel to send for thee and to his house, and to hear words of thee. Then called he them in, and
Right,
lodged
so
them.
he called them in. So now, as I was saying earlier, you think the Most High gonna send an angel to any nations? Let's find out. Get me Deuteronomy 4 and 1. Deuteronomy 4 verse 1. We're gonna find out. The Most High don't talk to these nations. Think the Most High gonna send an angel to you and talk to you like that? And you're a heathen? No, not in the Bible. Not in this life, neither to the next. Alright? Deuteronomy 4 verse 1.
Deuteronomy
This is all pointing to one thing, that Cornelius was an Israelite.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, and that he may leave and go in and possess the land which the Most High, the power of your fathers, giveth you.
Okay, so skip to verse 5. Okay, so have you see here, he's talking to who? To what nation he's talking to? To Israel. Read verse 5.
Verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Most High my power commanded me, that he should do so in the land whither he go to possess it.
Read.
Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nation.
Because the laws and the commandment is our wisdom and understanding. When we do these things, we're gonna sound wise. And that's true as a fact. Because we as young brothers, we whooping grown people. And they're asking, how old are you? You understand? Because that's our understanding and our wisdom. Read.
Which shall hear all these nations as a wise and understanding people.
Read. Verse 7.
For what nation is there so great, who hath the Most High so nigh unto them?
He asking a question. He said, what nation have the Most High near to them like that? It's a question. Can you tell me any nation that have the Most High so near to them that the Most High split the seas and they can see his angels? Since we left Israel, have any nation seen God's angels? No. If they tell you that, they're lying to you. Because the Bible asks the question, what nation have the Most High so near to them? What nation? Where is it written at in the Bible that the Most High have ever sent his angels to visit any nation? No. They might see some dreams from the Most High. Like Pharaoh saw some dreams. Because the Most High people was involved in it. He wanted to bring the Most High people. He was doing his way for his people. Okay? But where in the Bible you seen any nation have seen God's angels? Or they must have done such miracles he have done for Israel? That's the question. So what nation is so near to the Most High? Read.
Who hath the Most High so nigh unto them, as the Most High power is in all things that we call upon him for?
When we call upon him for, he answers. You understand? But what other nation have that? No other nation. The Most High would not send an angel to Cornelius if it was any other nation. That's what the Bible is telling you. Okay? You wouldn't see the Most High. That's impossible. Okay? Get me Psalm 147 verse 19. Let's see that too. Psalm 147 verse 19.
The book of Psalm 147 verse 19.
Read.
Psalm 147 verse 19.
Read.
He sheweth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgment unto Israel.
Unto who?
Unto Israel.
He showed his word unto Jacob and Israel. Okay? He didn't say he showed his word to everybody. Read.
He hath not dealt so with any nation.
He hath not what?
He hath not dealt so with any nation.
The Bible, the Most High say he have not dealt with any nation. What does the nations don't understand in that? The God we serve is our God. It's not everybody's God. He don't deal with you unless you're willing to come and keep his commandments. Let's say as a nation, if you're willing, and that's if he accepts you. Because our God doesn't accept every nation. Because there's certain nations till this day, the Most High say, you will not enter my sanctuary. That's if he accepts you. You understand? Our God he's not like Allah, who everybody can deal with Allah. He only deal with his race. He don't deal with everybody else. The Bible says he have not dealt so with any other nations. Okay? Where do you put the Chinese in there? Or the other nations in there? Read.
And as for his judgments, they have not known them.
So if Cornelius was a heathen, how would he know the law? The Bible says as for his judgment, his laws and commandments, they don't know them. So Cornelius could not possibly be a white man or any other man, it's Italian, because the heathen don't know the Most High commandments. Okay, so you're telling me Cornelius was living among the Italians where they worship Zeus and he knew the law out of the blue like that? No, the heathen don't know the Most High laws. Okay, they have not known them. Read.
Praise ye the Most High.
It's a praise for the Most High God, because our God don't deal with other nations. Okay, we praise the Most High for that, because our God is only our God. He's not sharing. Okay, let's go back to Acts. Okay, so the Most High clearly would not send his angels to any other nation if he wasn't an Israelite. Okay, even Israelites barely can see the Most High angel. You got to handpick you. I'm not talking about the other nations. Okay, not all Israel. There's Israelites that live and die. They never see no angels. Okay, now I'm not even talking about heathens. You're gonna see angels from what life? Verse 23.
Acts 10 verse 23.
Read.
Then called he them in and lodged them, and on the morrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. And the morrow after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen,
his family, read,
and near friends.
And near friends, read.
And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet,
read,
and worshipped him.
Read.
But Peter took him up and saying, stand up, I myself also am a man.
Okay, because our forefathers never took glory. You know, like as we grown as a body, you'll see people.
Verse 27. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, he know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company, or come unto one of another nation. But the Most High had shewn me that I should not call any man common or unclean.
Okay, so that's another verse that would say, you see, Peter said, I will not come to a man of another nation. Of another nation. All right, let's see. Read the author, the article's author, and its title if he has one.
It says Jewish, but you know.
Right.
It says sons of Israel and Caesar service, Jewish soldiers in the Roman military.
You see that? There are Jewish soldiers in the Roman military. Read.
Said the participations of Roman Jewish soldiers in the armies of Imperial Rome often goes unrecognized.
Often go unrecognized, meaning that they paint them white, basically. Because after some centuries, you sit here thinking all the women's army, they were all white people. Just like today, you see all these soldiers that fight in the U.S. Army, 50 to 100 years from now, you'll think they're all brave white soldiers.
Who were on the front lines, Haitians?
But guess what? Who's in the front line? Haitian, Jamaican, Dominican, Hispanic, our people. And nothing have changed. But our people will not get recognized. You see when they make movies about strong soldiers, they always have some white people. But guess what? Who's really fighting that war? It's our people. Our people's in their front line. In the same way, the articles bringing out, our services go unrecognized because they'll whitewash anything. 200 years from now, Barack Obama will be a white man. Read on.
This mainly a result of a lack of recognitions on the part of scholars who wish to use rabbinic sources as the benchmark for Jewish practice in the imperial age.
Read.
It is also difficult to identify Jewish soldiers, many of whom had Greek and Latin names.
Like Cornelius. Cornelius is not a Hebrew name. It sounds like a Greek name to you. Okay, but guess what? He was an Israelite. Read.
Unless they are specifically identified as Jews or found in the Jewish context, such as dedicatory inscriptions from a synagogue.
Okay, so unless they could really find solid proof that you're a Jew, like it's kind of hard. That's what happened to Cornelius. That's why there's so much confusion about him. You understand? But the Bible is indicating clearly that he was an Israelite by him keeping the laws already. Right. Okay, so get me John 4 verse 7 and 12. Because you gotta understand when Peter said it's not lawful for me who's a Jew to come in a house of someone who's of another nation. Let's find out. Get me John 4 verse 7. Let's break that down. John 4 verse 7.
John 4 verse 7.
Read.
There cometh the woman of Samaria to draw water. Christ saith unto her, Give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria?
Read.
For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans.
Be mindful, some of those Samaritans were still Israelites. And he's going to prove that in the scriptures. They were Israelites. They were not, remember, Samaria was the capital of Ephraim. You understand? Before it was, it was replaced with mostly heathen. But they were still our people. Some of our people stay in Samaria. So he says the Jews had no dealing with although they're Israelites, but the Jews would not deal with them because what? The Samaritans left them also long ago.
That was what verse?
That was in John 7, okay? Verse 9. John 4, verse 9. Right? So the Jews would not even be dealing with Samaritans because they were not circumcised, they worship idols. The Jews were known as a nation that don't deal with nations that don't keep God's commandments. Like if you're not with us, you're against us. That's how we used to be. Okay? That includes for Jews that wanted to be Greeks and Romans. Okay? It was a known fact. Like if you are Romans, you are a Greek, we don't deal with you. We don't sit in your house. We don't come to your house. You are not a nation. We don't recognize you as Israelites. Okay? But a lot of time what? When people are saying, like Peter said, it's not lawful for me to sit with another nation, then they quickly, oh, you see, that's a white, no, not necessarily. Because today we're being called by what? We're being called Haitians, Americans. That's another nation. That's not Israelite. But we know we Israelites, right? Right now we belong to another nation. We carry the name of another nation. Okay, our people's not calling themselves Israelites. When you ask them their nationality, they even say they're black. Okay, so basically we carrying the name of another nation. We become part of another nation. We pledge allegiance to another nation. That's what, you are another nation. Okay, because what makes you an Israelite is when you keep the Most High commandments and you pledge your allegiance to the country of Israel, right? Let's keep reading. Read.
10. Then the Mashiach answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water.
Read.
The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water?
You say, where are you going to get that living water from? Read.
Art thou greater than our father Jacob?
What she said? What she said?
Art thou greater than our father Jacob?
He says, are you greater than our father Jacob? What does that telling us about that woman? She was an Israelite. But guess what? She was on the wrong side of town. Jews would not even deal with her. She's like, are you greater than our father Jacob? Because she came from that same father. You understand? But the Jews would not even deal with Samaritans. Because Samaritans left, they would not come and worship in Jerusalem. You understand? Proving that the Jews would not even deal with you like that if you were not part of the Jews. They would call you uncircumcised and that's it. Don't sit with you. As the song say, we don't sit with you. Right? So that's how it works for the Jews. Let's go back to Peter's. Hold on. Let's get me Acts 2. Get me Acts 2. Verse 5. Acts 2 and 5.
Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together, and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
You say, why do they say in their own language? What's going on here? But they were Jews. Why do they say own language?
They were scattered.
They were scattered, and they had what?
Other nations. Different languages.
They become other nations. They take on other nation languages and identities. You understand? We're gonna see. Read on.
And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all this which speak Galileans?
Read.
And how hear we every man in our own tongue, wherein we were born?
If we were born in Libya, what am I?
Libyans.
Libyans. Well, that's why in certain scripture, the Most High say, I'm going to call the Egyptian my people. A lot of people say, you see, the Egyptian will be... No, that's not what it's talking about. Our people were being called Egyptians, literally. Our people were being called Libyans, Romans. Okay? And that's why in the article it says it's hard to identify those Israelites. Because they were given those nations' names and being called those nations. So how would you even know they're Israelite? Unless you can see for yourself, understand the truth.
Phrygia, and Pamphylia, and Egypt.
In Egypt, our people were living in Egypt, read.
And in the parts of Libya, about Cyrene, strangers of Rome.
Strangers of who?
Of Rome.
Strangers of Rome. People that came from Italy. Okay, Jews, devout men, like Cornelius. Okay, they came down to keep the Passover. All right, let's go back. Acts 10 verse 29.
The book of Acts chapter 10 verse 29.
Read.
Therefore came I unto you without gainsaying, as soon as I was sent for. I asked therefore, for what intent he have sent for me?
Read.
And Cornelius said, 4 days ago, I was fasting until this hour. This guy was fasting.
He was fasting. He wasn't no regular Zeus worshiper.
Yeah.
You understand? This brother was fasting. He was sitting there keeping God's commandments.
Right.
You understand? But you got Simple Nico saying he was a heathen. Of course, he knew the law. He knew everything about the law. He was fasting. What you got?
But now, Peter did not understand that these idea that there could be Jews any other place?
No, he understood that.
He understood that?
But Peter, why the angel sent Cornelius to Peter? Because Cornelius have never heard about Christ. That's what the Most High wanted Cornelius to get.
He had never heard
No,
the commandments?
No, he knew the law, but he didn't know about Christ. Remember? Because Christ was, remember, he was living in Italy, not in among the Jews. So he never know about Christ, neither have he repented and keep Christ and accepted and know about, you know, all the works Christ has done.
But he know about the Most High.
He knew about the laws. He knew about all that. He was fasting. The brother feared the Most High. But good question.
And at the 9th hour, I prayed in my house, and behold, a man stood before me in bright clothing.
So an angel, he's not talking about in his dream. An angel come to him in bright clothing. Most High don't do that for other heathen. Believe me, or believe it or not. Read.
And said, Cornelius, thy prayer is heard, and thy alms are had in remembrance in the sight of the Most High.
You see that? Because he was constantly praying to the Most High God of Israel. Okay? Because if you're praying to Zeus, the Most High will not answer you. All right, read.
Send therefore to Joppa, and call hither Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodged in the house of one Simon, a tanner by the seaside, who, when he cometh, shall speak unto thee. Immediately therefore I sent to thee, and thou hast well done that thou art come. Now therefore are we all here present before the Most High to hear all things that are commanded thee of God. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, Of a truth, I perceive that the Most High is no respecter of persons.
Read.
But in every nation, he that fear him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him.
Okay, so those are another verses that say, you see, Most High is not a respecter of person. In every nation, white, black, Chinese, African, as long as they come to the Most High, they're good. Read the next verse though.
It says, the word which the Most High sent unto the children of Israel.
Awful? That's why you go, he just killed it. Just killed the mood. Because the word was sent to who?
The children of Israel.
So you got to understand. Read.
Verse 35.
Acts 10:35. Read.
Acts 10:35. But in every nation he that feareth him and work righteousness is accepted with him.
Okay, so now the word here in, but in every nation is the same word as ev in the Greek. Ev. It also mean what? What are some definition of the word ev?
Prepositions.
Where we at? We here. Definition.
Definitions of in. On, among.
What is it?
It says in, on, among.
So those are some words for definition for in every nation. Among. Who was among the nations? Who was among the nations? So what is basically saying, among every nation here that fear the Most High, he's gonna save you. That's all he's saying. The Israelites, when we get me, what's that? James or Jude? Jude 1 and 1.
James 1 and 1.
James 1 and 1. Let's find out. Who was among the nations?
James chapter 1 verse 1.
Read.
James is servant of the Most High and of the Lord Mashiach Yashar to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad greeting.
Okay, to the 12 tribes that was scattered abroad greeting. Because our people were among the heathen.